Sup team, so you guys are already pretty big history buffs, huh? Well, congrats! You've all graduated! We've moved from Delt 101 to Delt 102. The year is 2021, September 17th. Actually, scratch that, sorry. September 15th. Undertale's 6th anniversary, where Fox and the Fangamer boys played Deltarune Chapter 1 for some reason. Just happened, but something's off. Noelle got plastic surgery and... oh my god. Deltarune Chapter 2 releasing on September 17th at 8 PM EST! Oh yeah! Yeah. Shit's getting real. With that, a new era was ushered in. The only notable thing that happened in the time between Chapter 2's announcement and the release was Camelia's obligatory cover of The World Revolving, by the way, just to be clear. But anywho, we went over the gist of the Chapter 1 fandom last time, as that was actually possible to fit into one video, but Chapter 2, I think even those plagued with NEWGENNITIS know about just how insane the time period between Chapters 2 and 3 was. We're going to have to break this shit down into separate time periods into themselves. Call it a push. I frankly have zero clue how to split the rest of this insane stretch up, so we're going to start relatively simple. September 17th, 2021, Deltarune Chapter 2's release to September 17th, 2022, when the Spamton Sweepstakes first dropped. Yes, this warrants a full-length video. All of the insanity from Chapter 1 era was molded in this time into something completely new and unique from the Undertale fandom that defined Deltarune fans prior. And it's all Spamton's fault, but we shall get into that. Everything evolved. AUs evolved. We got whole new subgenres of them, really. Chapter predictions evolved. Chris won't kill everyone anymore. For now. The main antagonist... for now it's still up in the air, but out with the old, in with the new. I ask that you take my hand once again, only after you use it to subscribe, as I guide you through an advanced level of educated NEWGENDom. Let us discuss Deltarune Chapter 2 fandom history from release to the sweepstakes. Let's run. Spamton. Jevil has been shot out back. Genuinely, our delightful devilish friend is rotting in the Wendy's parking lot or something. I don't gotta explain Spamton's relevance to you because he's still the face of Deltarune to this day and you just can't argue that, sorry. This isn't even biased. Even a Jevil truther such as I can admit that Spamton replaced Jevil as the Sands of Deltarune in this time. Sorry. But one thing that Jevil did do is help establish a pattern. Note, I will say things like this as if Chapters 3 and 4 didn't completely disprove them for immersion's sake, to get y'all really in that 2021 headspace, but anyway, Jevil did something odd. He foreshadowed Queen in this line. Soon the Queen returns and hell's roar bubbles from the depths. And Spamton did something kinda similar. When asked about friends in his shop, Spamton says, "Me? Friends? Oh, Chris, you and me are already friend request accepted. We don't need anyone else. We don't need easels or CRTs. We don't need any man, woman, or child at half price. We don't need Mike. Chris, don't believe anything you see on TV. The man's a criminal, I tell you. A criminal. How queer. Another secret boss has dropped another name that we've never heard of, and they seem like a pretty bad guy. Maybe. Just maybe there's a pattern here. Everything became a pattern back in the day. Even if we didn't have more than 2 chapters to prove it, we took whatever we could get. But regardless, Chapter 3's main antagonist had definitely been name dropped. Mike. From that point forward, we would Mike the hell out, and I mean it. There wasn't this much hype for OST predictions during Chapter 1, hence why I barely brought it up outside of Chris's evil genocides, but now, Mike predictions were the roots of Deltarune Chapter takes as a whole, which didn't spring up until after the sweepstakes, and thus we ain't talking about them, sorry. Vision Crew's gotta wait, it was released a month too late to be here. There's another prerequisite before we dive into the Mike-cosis, though. I want to wait to discuss theories as a whole during this time, but one theory became a foundational, primary source document for everything else. I'm not even exaggerating. Everybody operated off the assumption that chess theory by Asi Flower was true. Real simple concept. Chapter 1's main antagonist was king, and Chapter 2's was queen. In chess, the queen has a lower point value than the king. As I already mentioned, we assumed everything had to be a pattern back then, so it was thus set in stone that each chapter's main boss would correspond to less valuable chess pieces in descending order. So here's how it went. Chapter 3 had a rook, 4 a bishop, 5 a knight, 6 a pawn, and 7 was a wild card, commonly thought to be the player, which, in hindsight, makes no sense on the power structure, but sure. I also don't know what a rook would look like as a person to this day, but the real sauce was in bishop and knight. Funnily enough, we were pretty good at predicting Dark Worlds even then. That's because they could literally be anywhere that had double doors, and even bigger double doors had more aura. So, yeah, that's it. The church had tons of aura points. Plus, religion as escapism. That's another pattern for you. Dark Worlds were symbolic of escapism from hometown's apparently miserable reality. So if the church was to be a Dark World, having a bishop would just make sense. And we know there's a knight, so going off of chess theory, we could finally meet them in Chapter 5! Yeah, but I can't even diss chess theory. It was a good-ass idea, all things considered. With chess theory in mind, we can get into the mics. Most takes ignored the rook part completely, which is hilarious by the way, but rooks were still an important mic subset. A mic species, if you will. Here's the options we had. Mic was either definitely a TV head, a quote-unquote rook character in the same vein as king and queen, or a microphone, and talking mouth-related things in general. Keep in mind that all these takes were crooked criminals, hence Spamton's dialogue. Some takes used to play into chess theory using that by calling Mike a crook, as in, C, rook. I believe this myself because honestly, it was the funniest, coolest stretch of a pun ever made, but now, let us go over prominent examples of all of these mics. First off, the rooks. The absolutely most popular designs didn't come from rooks, even though it went off the iconic chess theory. The one design that mainly comes to mind here is Rook from Deltarune Chapter, an early Chapter 3 take by the Underblunder. Rook's design goes off the idea that each main chapter boss would look similar to King and Queen since, and I really gotta make sure y'all understand this, everything was a pattern. I forgot to mention this last time, but there was also a popular Spade Queen design during the Chapter 1 era that already played off the idea before the pattern even existed, so Ozymandias' Rook was a long time coming. From what I can gather, Rook was a TV action star who frequently beat up bad guys. He had 2 lackeys, one of which being Mike. Rook's lackeys served to add to epic funny moments, which I can't lie, was the one thing making him not just a more unhinged queen. Even long after the sweepstakes, chess theory swept over our minds like a pandemic and forced us to make every chapter the same besides 5 and 7 and sometimes 6. Just like last time, I don't want to dog on any of that thinking though. We didn't know any better, but this will become a thing, especially in later installments of this series, if it becomes a series. I think this is best proven by a fan take? By Goat from the Stars, where Rook had a Queen's mixtape equivalent, had like 7 of them. Goat from the Stars made a lot of the popular Rook content on YouTube, but the official source for all things Ozymandias is on SoundCloud, and it goes too far in the future for us to discuss right now. Moving on from the Rooks now. There's obviously more designs, but that goes for everybody, and we just gotta keep moving here. Next up, the microphone mics / other General Michaels. There's this mic by Minor Mate Coffee paired with a really cool Chapter 3 take, as lots of these are. I don't know if there was lore made for this one, but what I can see is that Mike looks like SCHTUFF. What an odd thing to predict. This guy's actually canon and got demoted to a mini-boss. EJ's mic also got relatively popular. He's a straight up microphone here. Just to clarify, quite a few takes accurately predicted Tenna's outfit. That's all Spamton's fault. Our gremlin got a piece of merch that depicted him in that same outfit, and assuming his connection to Mike, who he later shot and killed in favor of Tenna, it was actually a really sound prediction. EJ's was also framed as a leak that was really just made for funsies, and that was a very common trope. Possibly the most popular one-off quote-unquote leak was m_tv.odg by Sunny Z. You could argue Mike's design is more rookish here, but a Mike following King and Queen's design beats doesn't automatically make them a rook. Confusing stuff, I know. I tried my best. Regardless, while this mic did release a day after the sweepstakes had just name-dropped Tenna, I'm pretty confident that it was one of the final classic Michaels to spill over into a completely new era in of itself. As one comment put it in better words than I, this Mike marked the end of the first post-Chapter 2 era of Chapter 3 speculation, and that's really cool. We have a direct benchmark, and it's a really groovy one at that. I could go over more, but you get the gist. Every mic is cool, man, but now we gotta get into the most foundational Michael archetype that was out there. The one that was so good that we deadass gaslit ourselves into thinking it was wrong. We got TV head mics. There's a lot of these goons. To my knowledge, the first one was from Mr. Luigi. You've all seen this one. I don't care how big baby new gen you are. You've all seen this one. This started every mic trend I've discussed so far. You've got all the classic beats. TV head with a smile from the end of Chapter 2, check. Suit and bow tie, check. Game show host, hugest and greenest and dingiest, check. Mike was destined to be a game show host. I also love this guy's laugh. Speaking of laughs, y'all also know this one. I just know that we're on the same wavelength here. This one got huge. Mike's Big Showdown was such a generational fan game, but it had a bit of an identity crisis. That's because this game's Mike was both the main boss and the secret boss. The game shows a secret ending where Mike goes full Insano style. That goes to show how much fans set out to do with how little information we actually had at the time. This one was also inspired by Luigi's take, by the way, as they have the same laugh. Peak influences peak. I'm pretty sure this was also the first Deltarune fan game to fully remix an Undertale Soul mode, like the Yellow Soul in Spamton Sweepstakes. Mike's Big Showdown chose to remix the Blue Soul by giving it a ground pound ability, and it was really fun. Alongside the banger that is Laugh Track, the game was super chaotic and is really the best playable showcase of our era of Mikeage. It also predicted Tenna usually having to die. Another notable mic for the collection is from Modtros64's Deltarune Gamma. While it's another fun adventure type deal like the other takes, it still got really popular and it's still pretty dang cool. Mike is a sleazy motherfucker here, kidnapping Toriel and Undyne. From what I could tell, Gamma actually predicted how Toriel's storyline went in Chapter 3 proper, with her being captured doing literally nothing, which is super impressive considering the amount of takes that added, I don't know, fucking fire rave. Finally, just to mention John Laurel, as we will get into Laurel later, they created a Susie versus Mike battle theme, and the concept was, again, pretty cool. This is more of a precursor before I glaze Laurel even more later, but again, that's later. I could definitely go on, but I think y'all get the gist. TV Mike was the big thing. It got so big, in fact, that it kinda got added to the game? Yeah, if you didn't know, it's pretty solid that the official Mike trio are all inspired from Mike fan designs. This pre-sweepstakes era gave us the ones that inspired Battat, specifically. He's absolutely inspired by Mr. Luigi's TV head trend, and while he is a microphone, microphones are a theme in each Mike's design. So now, who inspired Pluey and Jongler? You're just gonna have to wait till later parts to find out. Wandering Maker's Mike and Loggy, but they come in way later. I'm not ready to talk about them yet, especially Loggy. While we're on the topic of predictions, let's go over some more popular quote-unquote leaks. This is one of the last times I'll call chapter takes leaks, since all that stuff really came to a head just a month after the sweepstakes. Even before the sweepstakes revealed Green Room, among other things, we were cooking up really cool ideas for Chapter 3's environment. The same hadn't really happened for Chapter 4, even with the Bishop. The only popular Bishop theme I could find was from... But Chapter 5 got better treatment for some reason because this first one is by Menace Gnarly, and it's from Chapter 5. I bring this one up for two reasons. One, this concept single-handedly inspired the idea of Sans' outfit not changing in the Dark World for comedic effect. And two, even if it's Chapter 5, due to the Dreamer House's sepia theme, Chapter 3 was commonly turned into a desert like the one shown for a few seconds here. It really did fit because of the water cactus and stuff, you know. A desert was the big one for Chapter 3, not only because of the palette, but also because of yet another pattern. Chapters 1 and 2 both had a very similar sequence of events area-wise. First, there is the light world, then some kind of outskirts, less developed area like a field, then a more civilized buffer area like a city, before the big bad guy's final tower, and then back to the light world. A desert was the perfect barren-ish area to fit into that outskirts cliche. There's another one that I just can't find, but you gotta believe me, I know it existed, you just gotta trust me. Here's an incredibly crude mock-up that I just had to make, because this concept was still cool as shit, man. It might have also been from Menace Gnarly, again, I'm unsure. If it was still up on YouTube, it would be a great example of another cool-ass idea that we followed. At the end of Chapter 2, Susie scrolls through various programs on the TV, eventually landing on a giant monster movie special. This inspired fans to make their Chapter 3 takes into a living movie marathon, like, I don't know, Fairly Odd Parents Channel Chasers or something. The giant monster movie was the most common setting for these concepts for another reason. During the Ferris wheel scene in Chapter 2, Susie tells Noelle that if she was Susie Zilla or something, I could wreck the whole city. The giant monster movie was clearly a Godzilla spoof, so Godzilla spoof plus Susie Zilla equals profit. The only fan-made Susie Zilla battle concept from this time I could find was this. All the really popular concepts came out post-sweepstakes, so we ain't there yet. Just keep it in the back of your minds. Another really solid prediction was Undyne filling Chapter 3's BOIII type role. Holy mother of patterns, even though Chapter 1 didn't even have a BOIII type role, but whatever. This was because Toriel called the cops right at the end of Chapter 2 after Chris slashed her tires. Toriel's here too, by the way, but that one was absolutely concrete because she was literally in the living room. We thought she had a way bigger role, though. Before we knew how the weird route would ever continue, we assumed a new party member would be added each and every chapter, specifically for us to mess with. This included Toriel with her coveted Firegrave ability, Heartburn, or whatever else Take chose to call it. Yes, that Deltarune animation is pretty damn historically accurate, not gonna hold you. Regarding Undyne, her mysteriously red Chapter 1 era fan design carried over until sweepstakes because of her possible inclusion. Lidkiss kinda carried with these concepts at the time, as they made Toriel a weird route battle concept. Heartburn. We really thought she would have so much aura, man. Like, I'm happy with what we got, but not seeing her till the very end, and not even hearing a line from her until Chapter 4 was just pure whiplash after all the fan concepts. This weird route concept, even if a joke, also got pretty big. It also shows the semi-popular idea of the legally distinct green lizard from Super Smashing Fighters coming to life in the Dark World. It also represented the meme of BOIII quote-unquote respawning, but we'll get more into that in the final memes section, just like last time. But now that we're talking about weird routes, let's get even goddamn weirder. It's all Spamton's fault, right? Well, we can fix that. We can fix that by beating the ever-loving snot out of him in the Salt route. Salt route by Be a Big Shot and animated by JQR was probably the first popular Deltarune fan concept to spawn from a dream, and I think it's the only one that actually did come from a dream, and the creators weren't lying, because the premise is absurd. You don't gotta be in the weird route to do any of this, just to preface. No. To unlock the Salt route, you need to find 5 piles of pure salt, because sure, they just show up as little white pixels in the ground. Take them all the way to Spamton, and he has additional lines of dialogue after his fight. He says he's lost his keys, and desperately needs to find them so he can get into his shop. If you choose to help Spamton, you are locked into the Salt route as he joins your party with odd fanfare. From here on out, every single character interaction is replaced with Spamton driving in Queen's car after no jeers, the acid tunnel, everything. And it's even more creepypasta-esque than the weird route proper. Shit hits the fan after Spamton takes your spare key, like your metaphysical spare key, so he can enter his shop. Yeah. You're going to be killing everything. With your literal spare key gone, you can only fight. And fighting completely kills enemies now, to Spamton's horror. He goes along with Chris in hopes of finding his keys, though. And this comes to a head when you use the spare key to enter Spamton's shop and buy the thorn ring off of him, only to force him to equip it. This fully breaks Spamton when you force him to kill an Addison who tries comforting him. Nobody's had his keys. Spamton clearly does not want to comply. But we need to find his keys. So Chris drags him by these silly strings for the rest of the run. Shit is getting chopped up in the fan. Ferb is clogged. Continue through the Queen's mansion. Spamton keeps hesitating. He needs his keys, so Chris punches Spamton into submission. Yeah. Sweet baby Jesus in a manger. The rest of the run is basically an Undertale genocide-styled weird route. Spamton is fully compliant as Queen's Mansion becomes this silent, depressing place. The Salt route ends with Chris Spamton hacking away at Queen before Spamton's heart lashes out and knocks her off the building. Chris and Spamton then sit in the wind, with Spamton asking Chris if he made them proud. You can only choose no. Choosing yes loops, didn't I? Over and over. Well, guess you really can't please everybody. Spamton leaves the party in silence, and Chris sits with the same. We don't know what happens after. Salt route took what made the weird route feel like a creepypasta and amped it up to 100. Salt route would inspire and usher in tons of other things, and honestly, the new wave of Deltarune AUs as a whole. Now people were finally starting to break away from the Undertale mold. AUs could now be different routes in universe, or they could still be traditional. Basically, it's when we started cooking with gas. Chapter Rewritten will start releasing tracks in July of 2022, and the other puppets started earlier that same year. These two especially kickstarted the new era of Deltarune AUs, and it was really cool to see. As I'm sure a lot of you know, Rewritten is still going to this day with even cooler stuff than before. Check them out if you haven't already. I'm gonna rapid fire off this one, but I don't want to downplay how huge this final boss concept was. The Roaring Titans by Tempotastic was an absolutely generational track. It got an even cooler remaster, but that's just too far down the line. The song not only is a desperate banger, but they also predicted asterisk the design of the Titans. I say asterisk because obviously we knew the build of the Titans after Rousey's Chapter 2 spiel, but they got the color scheme 1-to-1 here. That we did not know. Seriously, plop angel wings onto the main Titan, and you have yourselves the official design. The background Titans also kinda predicted the Knight's design, but that's more of an indirect thing, and we still don't even know why those Titans look like that. While we're on the topic of the Titans and the roaring and stuff, it's time to glaze John Laurel, as I hinted at earlier. Laurel began creating themes and concepts for Deltarune right after Chapter 2's release, but he was special. Laurel was thinking far, far into the future. Takes for chapters I think 5 through 7, which was rare at the time, especially with a focus on 7. While Laurel isn't exactly a visionary, when he predicts something, he gets it. He predicted the concept of second Dark Worlds completely with his Another Cyberfield. There were a few other concepts like this from others, but this was the closest thing to the actual second Sanctuary in concept. Maybe that gives some credibility to his Chapter 7 predictions, I don't know. You got versus Player Angel, the roaring itself in Chapter 6, Hell being significant in some random chapter, the aftermath of the final boss, and more. He also made 2 really cool credits-esque sequences for the game, Farewell and One Last Song. One Last Song is really cute and deadass super accurate to how Chris plays a real sounding piano in the holiday house, but Farewell is just kind of funny. Not to dog on it since we didn't have any more info, but having characters from only the first 2 chapters of a 7-chapter game be shown dramatically walking off into the light is crazy. Fucking Top Chef is there, dude. Mamma mia. Laurel deserves every single ounce of glaze I give because this man was pumping out high quality concepts back in the day while keeping it casual. He still uploads Deltarune stuff, by the way, so definitely check him out. Now, before we get into the absurdity of Knight candidates, I want to mention a common motif found in old Knight designs after Chapter 2. I want to use this particular one as an example, Knight by the Updater. The Knight's design isn't what I want to talk about, but it does play off chess theory and Asriel Knight. That wasn't super widespread back then either, but come to think of it, I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't. They also predicted Chris's affiliation with the Knight kinda, which is very cool. What I want to talk about most is the song itself. It's a certified grand spankin' banger, but it also shows a common trope that even still bleeds into today, knowing what the Knight looks like. We gotta go back even further in time for this one. Almost a whole decade ago, Toby Fox made a fan song for Gigi's Cucumber Quest webcomic. The song was called Nightmare Night. You can already see where this is going. Fox has been known to reuse leitmotifs and just tracks in general, and since Nightmare Night was never officially used for anything as it was a fan track, it had a very real chance of being in Deltarune. To add even more merit to this, fans connected the possibly fake dots of the track kinda sounding like Deltarune's chase theme. Peep this. So yeah, in some back-asswards way, we predicted the chase-holding nightlight motifs through inspiration. That's not even confirmed. Since Black Knife has chase in it, if chase really is meant to sound like Nightmare Night, then that track is still on the table, and many fans believe it'll professionally reappear in a Night rematch, which would honestly be sick. I don't know. While we're still on the topic of the Night, this is as good of a time as ever to tell y'all about the insane Deltarune theory space. During the Chapter 1 era, we were still restrained with typical MatPat clone theories from people who barely read into the game, you know, Swanky Box, Treesicle, all the absurd little channels that I'm sure you remember hit their delta peaks there. Now, though, after Chapter 2's release, we began molding ourselves into the brain-rotted community that we are today with some of these gems. I don't want to say these two theories kickstarted everything, as I can't verify if these were the absolute first new era theories to get big, but Asif Lawal's chess theory and Kuki's universal mother theory were super generational. I've already filled y'all in on chess theory, but universal mother theory was a simple yet effective idea. Queen treated characters how she did in parallel to their respective mother figures. This ended up absolutely being correct. According to the theory, Queen was super controlling of Noelle because of her mom. Check. The theory didn't even say this one, but it low-key foreshadowed Toriel's relationship with Chris in Chapter 4, and it predicted Miss Boom's connection to BOIII with Burgley. With how Universal Mother Theory genuinely went 4 for 4 here, I wouldn't be surprised if it has correct implications for Susie and Rousey too. Susie may get talked down to at best, and Rousey may either be completely ignored or just has no parental figures. Great stuff. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Now, we cannot talk about the emergence of the modern theory sphere without mentioning that Andrew Cunningham uploaded his first Deltarune video on October 10th, 2021, less than a month after the game was even released. Cunningham's way of doing things became foundational for creators to come. The days of game theory clone style stuff were gone. This sounds like I'm talking about the cavemen, but we became literate. Well, some of us anyway, because goddamn Jaru J also started uploading at this time.
December's soul was absorbed by Chris, which transformed them into an entity with...
I gotta make it abundantly clear that I don't support this guy. Gotta make that shadow crystal clear. It's just necessary to talk about Jaru when giving a history lesson. We'll make it quick. He started relatively sane. Deltarune, alternate reality or alternate timeline. Okay. Who is Chris? Okay. What happened to Deltarune's magic? Valid question, my brother. And then we got piles of Azrael's dust. Jaru updated this recently and made it about weird about incest for some fucking reason, so it isn't even funny anymore, but this was the shitty theory back then. This was the face of crackpot theories and inspired many like it for years. Theory goes that Rousey is Azrael's dust, imbued on the horn headbands in the supply closet after Chris accidentally killed them during Halloween or something, I forget. I'm not rewatching a Jaru video. Research be damned. I'm sorry. Jaru then released a 3-hour video going over every single character in the game and assessing their likelihood of being the Knight. This is when Knight discussion just turned outright insane. The biggest thing we had to go off of was Queen's cyber light show of the Knight piercing the earth. The Knight had to have fingers, and the Knight had a knife. This isn't what Jaru said, but oh my lord. Oh, wait a minute. Knife. Fingers. Chris is the Knight. Chris Knight. Remember how I mentioned Nightmare Knight earlier? People were putting that onto Chris. Look at this. Versus Knight / Chris? As if it's like synonymous? Like confirmed? Before we really dug into Chris Knight, remember, we're still in that only first year after release, it was practically confirmed. Blood had to be the Knight. The envious envy was back to being evil. I'll be damned. Oh, another part of Azrael's dust. Jaru predicted Gerson, like completely, somehow. He thought Gerson would be the Knight as fucking Oberon Smog. But how Gerson was to be revived with the dust on the hammer was 1-to-1. This is the only instance where Jaru was actually on demon time. Never again. This was his one ticket to having a good idea. Speaking of the Knight, Des. I forgot to mention this last time, but there's this hopeless voice in the code that gets new lines every chapter. We thought it's Des, and we still think it's Des. Des had her first big mention in Chapter 2, when Chris and Noelle are having a heart-to-heart in Cyber City. There's a shit ton of Des imagery in Chapter 2, actually. Baseball Moon, 1225, December at the Spelling Bee, hitting Chris with a wiffle ball bat, all those foundational concepts that are common knowledge today were born at this time. Des Knight was in infancy here. Theory crafting would have to get even more advanced for us to get Des Knight to be household, and even further for candidates like Carol to exist, who we easily predicted the name of, by the way. Considering the holidays naming trend, Noel, Rudolph, December, all Christmas stuff, it only made sense that the quote-unquote C writing rent notices to Asgore was Carol. Also, who would name their child Christmas? Other huge creators got their start after Chapter 2 as well. Mystic Slime started with analyses, Half-Bred Chaos made generational discoveries such as Goner Code, Spamton's cat element, and more. Spamton being related to cats would fuel lots of friend theorizing in the future. That same video also brought unused item/element pairings into the public eye. There's this unused Sky Mantle with electric/holy defense, cat/string being element 6, and actually then connecting everything to Gaster, so yeah. Super big stuff, seriously. Oh, also, Dorked kept uploading, but Dorked already kind of did upload, so I don't think she counts, but she's still generational for good analyses in general. And Inverted Fate. Obviously, but that's Undertale. Another huge theory was player angel theory. Pretty simple. This part's not on the script, I don't have the evidence off my head, but player's the angel. That's the common consensus today. Also Noelle angel as well, because of a bunch of Jesus imagery, like her being crucified with the hand. Also, some people thought Gaster was the angel. A lot of angels. A lot of angels. But player angel began to prevail at this time. Another large theory was T theory, which claimed that how much the T item from Chapter 2 healed Chris was indicative of how much they liked other characters. This spawned the, frankly, stupid idea that Chris hated Rousey's guts due to the lower value of healing compared to other characters. This is probably the one thing I'll call genuinely stupid because, guys, we've had it established that Chris is chill with hugging Rousey since day one. Speaking of that, ships, I don't know how to go into detail on this, but Suzdal exists, Krause exists now, Queen X King obviously exists now, and yeah, them's the biggins. But one final theory, gas leak theory. An obvious joke, although many fans took it seriously, I just had a resurgence with Cammy Boy G's toilet theory. Gas leak theory took Chapter 1's fake-out ending and cranked it up to 100 by proposing that Chris simply just struck a pipe underneath the floor, and now the Dreamer house is accumulating with toxic gases. Awesome. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, everybody's hopes of Chris going on just a plentiful amount of genocides in Chapter 2 were immediately crushed by Chapter 2's intro, revealing that the knife Kara-esque thing was a complete fake out and that Chris just went to get a midnight snack of pie. Absurd. With that, that's about all of the super duper serious stuff I like to talk about. Before we go into meme culture though, I want to rapid fire some general fan works. For fan games in this first year after release, we had bangers like A Different Snowgrave, where Spamton used a loaded disc on Queen's Mecha instead and fought Noelle at the end of the weird route. Then there's Mike's Big Showdown, which I already mentioned was the first fan game to try adding on to a Soul Mode's kit, Yellow Soul style. There's Inexistent Freedom, a spiritually bad time trio fan game, where Jevil, Spamton, and Sans jumped you. Remember Omega Jevil from last time? It's called Deltarune Titans now, and they added Spamton Sigma, because why not? The weird route got some very cool fan games that were very similar to Versus the Fun Gang from Chapter 1. Frozen Over was an early example of a Noelle weird route battle, and Versus Susie was a natural evolution of Versus Susie and Rousey. All of Chris's genocides were indirectly repackaged into games with a more serious tone because of the weird route, and it's great. The original Versus Susie and Rousey also got updated during this time period. I didn't tell y'all the whole truth last time, and I apologize. Versus Susie and Rousey, the track was released during Chapter 1 era, but Versus Susie and Rousey, the game, was released and or updated very, very early during Chapter 2, hence why Rousey's sprites are as Chapter 2. Finally, God Home was a Hollow Knight Deltarune crossover, and it was pretty dang cool. I only bring this up because I somehow forgot to mention Hollow Shot last time. Hear me out? a Deltarune X Hollow Knight X one-shot fan game where you fight the Hollow Knight as the knight and Nico one-shot. Super cool Chapter 1 era fan game that completely slipped my mind somehow. I'll make an addendum video going over absolutely everything I forgot eventually, I swear. Sprite animations also began popping off after Chapter 2. Now we've got A Sprite Rico, Snowy, Spargoo, Sightseeker, and many others in the mix. There are also some just generational animations coming out, many having to do with Spamton. I'm sure you've seen Frostbite's hyperlink animations stolen for TikTok edits or something. Hobo Hobo's 3D Spamton Neo animation went crazy, Corey Beebington's went crazy, Spamton's backstory by Rello Pro went crazy, Marine Flames went crazy, Davis's Spamton intro went so hard, you get the idea. Tons of people kickstarted their careers, and for once, it's thankfully Spamton's fault. My personal favorite type of Deltarune animation is always going to be the one-off, slice-of-life scenario type of deals. Snowy is a prime example of this. They didn't make too many, but the handful they did make during this time was super high quality. Sprite animation side stories are almost like comforting in a way? I don't know. These wouldn't be done by so many people until later though. As I mentioned earlier, JQR also made super cool stuff with the Salt route and the Chapter 1 Weird route that turned Jevil into an absolute menace. Won't go into nearly as much detail on this one, but it's basically if Susie kept her violent tendencies throughout the entire game. Using Jevil's power after beating him, she can cast the Devil's Buster and actually kill enemies. JQR even made a Chapter 2 continuation of this, where Susie's healing is immediately stronger than Rousey's. Super good. There's a lot more fanworks I could talk about, but a lot of them didn't come about until after the sweepstakes. But there is one group I forgot to mention. The secret bosses. We are going to totally rapid fire this shit because there's already a ton just within this first year. Here we go. Admund, Immortal Hydrangea, my favorite. Radiola from Gamma. The Vessel, big one to this day. Not much to talk about. Chris, already talked about the Knight. Flowery, Phone, Mike, duh. All of the ones that Goat from the Stars made for like every freaking chapter. Rosie, and I'm sure there's plenty more that I'm either forgetting or unable to find. While the secret boss craze was absolutely popular at this time, it wouldn't go totally off the rails until after the sweepstakes. What you gotta know is that secret bosses would follow the pattern of being a forgotten and or discarded item, like how Jevil is a Joker card, spam email. Big ideas of the day were Asgore's Flowers in the Trash, Radio Stars Killed by Video, and landline phones. These stayed pretty consistent, but of course, there's somebody that won't come about until after the sweepstakes. Quick little addendum here, I almost forgot. Freedom Motif is a motif now, not just the world revolving, it is a motif. It's in both of the songs. You know what it is, I don't have to fucking explain it to you. Continue! Oh, also, they'd have Green Soul. All were Green Soul. Pretty much. There's like a little bit of purple and even less blue, but mostly green. And that was because of the order you get gear in Undertale. The theory was that it would be reverse order, but there's also some other weird stuff about it, so it would be either purple or green, I don't know. I know I said super serious stuff was done, but secret bosses were a big deal. My bad. But now, just like last time, we are seriously done with super serious big guy business. As well-rounded historians, it's time to move into meme culture. To understand what happened here, you gotta understand the shift that happened on the whole with just every meme space. Vine and Reddit humor were drawing their final breaths at this time, and absurdity emerged in the 2020s. In Deltarune's case, we got Rousey smoking a fat blunt. Doobie. Like I said last time, this was a direct evolution of Rousey with a gun in terms of tone and humor. Rousey doing something insanely out of character and enjoying it is evidently just funny this day, as Rousey can still be seen huffing that pack. Oh, also, Chapter 2 referenced Rousey with a gun, very possibly. While fighting pop-ups, this flavor text can appear. Rousey moved to click on an ad with a bunny on it teaching you how to make friends, and accidentally clicked on an ad of a machine gun that appeared over it. So, yeah. TS is totally canon. Another one I vaguely hinted at is BOIII respawning. Yes, respawning. The phrase of the day was, "Chris, gamers don't die." we respawn. BOIII would then be unthawed from his King of Snow graves and beat the shit out of us. BOIII got serious themes for this scenario with the unserious title. That's how widespread it was. He was basically a shitpost version of Undying the Undying. The fanbase's past loathing of BOIII also became a joke in of itself. Everyone thought BOIII was annoying in Chapter 1, and lo, the monkey's paw curled. Real dramatic irony there. This gif of Spamton also came from an animation by the Matthew Flames. You've seen it. Not much to talk about. Although, I do want to say that Spamton was an obvious candidate for our next big meme man. Rules card in his hellish meme template got burned in the flames of disaster in favor of Spamton's inherently absurd style. He got shitpost memes and serious animation memes. Rules could never keep up. Goodbye mac and cheese, hello Big Shot sodas. Oh yeah, Big Shot soda commercial with Mike in it from 1997. You know, the Spamton year. Make it that what you will. Spamton also got lots of dubs around this time. We had Alex Uchan, his Spamton voice was Dead Ash's Kane by the way, Germa, Christopher Niosi, Audio Spawn, and many others. Not really a meme, just thought I'd mention it because these people pioneered the zeitgeist that was Spamton's voice. A garbled mess, but still coherent enough where you can tell it's audibly garbled. Does that make sense? I hope so. Sightseeker also had a shitpost Deltarune in Minecraft series, and it was pretty funny to a 13-year-old little roobsta like me. We're in rapid fire territory once again here. More than 3 heroes got over 8 million views, somehow becoming one of the most generational Deltarune fan works ever. Sure, Chapter 1 style meme compilations also spilled over into this era for only a little bit. As previously mentioned, they were at death's door, but this was just the right time for them to have a last hurrah. Lots of animatics were made of the mask voicing Spamton as well, and they were pretty funny. Krause in and of itself became kind of a meme ship because people were skeptical of it, which at the time was fair. Elliot Online, do not kill me, I beg and bargain. Since Chapter 4, we know that Rouse and Asriel are very distinct from one another, but before that, you can't deny it was a bit odd, man. Never talk down to me again. Shorts boy. This classic styled Spamton Neo-be-like also stands out to me. Just watch it. Also forgot somehow, the biggest meme immediately following Chapter 2 was absolutely Chris got the banana! Potassium. In Chapter 2, Queen urges Chris to drive into a banana, acquiring it. That's it. It was prime time for a fandom inside joke, so it got massive. I also almost forgot about Chris. Where the hell are we? Funny ass Susie sprite paired with funny scenario of Susie waking up in the Chapter 3 Dark World. Presto. Fan-made dialogue memeified and put into other random games and media. Really cool stuff. Also directly inspired Delta Traveler, but that game has obviously detached itself from the meme by now. It's got a lessons in meme culture video, man. That's big. Very quick little addendum here. I forgot to mention Delta Traveler in the fan game section, but sections 1 and 2 of the game released at this time, where section 1 was in Undertale's Ruins and section 2 was in Earthbound. Cool stuff. I honestly never got into it, but regardless, this fan game got huge. With that, I think I've said enough about memes, but we aren't done this time. There's some final foundational events that occurred right before the sweepstakes dropped that y'all have to know about. On Undertale's 7th anniversary, the first ever Undertale Deltarune newsletter dropped, and we got the biggest teasers for chapters 3 and 4 ever. Compared to the two things we got before Chapter 2. This was insane. Let's dig in like the greasy little pigs we are. Well, okay, this wasn't really a newsletter yet. It was called a Deltarune status update. Taking one look at it makes it clear how this evolved into newsletters though, but same format, just isn't via email, that's all. This was the first time we really got transparency on Deltarune's development at all, and it was nice to see. At the time, chapters 3, 4, and 5 were actually meant to release as a bundle. The team downsized though, because if that were the case, we'd still be waiting for any content, and that would suck. A town called Hometown was teased as Hometown Day, with 3 screenshots to accompany it. Susie hanging out with Chris at QC's, Susie skipping stones with Chris, and a new NPC dancing in the rain in front of the police station. Cool stuff. My Funky Town was also teased as, well, My Funky Town. We were given a glimpse into Castletown's now bustling cafe, and got our first look at a new enemy ever. The Shadow Guys. But they get more info later. That'll be next time. We also got more Task Manager, and imagine what crowd got a kick out of that. We also got to see a full clip of Queen's room, with her sipping on battery acid and all. Finally, we got a teaser for Welcome to the Green Room, simply titled Green Room. Where could this possibly be? This was accompanied by a full image of the main area of the green room, and this sparked so much discussion. You see those couches? That's either where Susie and Chris would wake up, or they were Chris's and Azriel's beds, and this was their room. This was such an interesting option that it inspired a whole new wave of Azriel-esque secret bosses, but there was so much other stuff going on at this time that didn't spring up quite yet. Just know that Chapter 3 was going to be the big Azriel family chapter. With star imagery galore, it was all but guaranteed. Those with a keen eye may have noticed Ram's name is absent from his bar. We actually didn't get to see his name until the sweepstakes gave us the biggest content drop ever, but that isn't for another few days. Yes, we're only operating in days now. A bunch of shit happened during Undertale's 7th anniversary. For example, just 2 days before the status update dropped, we were blessed with the Talking Spamton plush by Fangamer. This needs no introduction. My good friend Lighton's been giving him spankings the entire video because everything is his fault. While this was a huge drop, there's not really much I can say about it. Fangamer had our neurodivergence in the palm of their hand as per usual. With that, the Spamton Sweepstakes were announced for Saturday, September 17th, 2022. Exactly a year after Deltarune Chapter 2's release. And that's where my work is done. For now, we can close the book on only the first year after release. First year, and this was over twice as long. We are in for the goddamn long haul, fellas. As per usual, any steps I can take towards curing NEWGENNITIS is a giant leap for all of Delta kind, and it is a leap I shall take in strides. Next time, we got even more to go over. The sweepstakes, new content, new secret bosses, entire chapter takes, even more fake leaks. Yeah. As we progress further in time, you guys will start recognizing a lot more things. Especially some. But that is for next time.